everyone, it's Marisa from BumblebeeApothecary.com, and today I'm here to take you along as we move through the last week 10 of introducing solids to our baby using Dr. Natasha's baby GAPS steps. So during week 10 and beyond, we are basically just moving into the rest of full GAPS as far as that fits a baby. So the very last foods to add, Dr. Natasha recommends scrambled eggs cooked in plenty of fat. So this could be butter, ghee, duck fat, something like that, lard. So scrambled eggs, and then she says serve them with avocado and some cooked vegetables or raw vegetables. This week is also when she talks about adding raw fruit. She recommends starting with peeled raw apple and then trying a little bit of very ripe banana. For us, I always just wait as long as possible before introducing fruit for my kids. It just seems to work a lot better for us. So we really, for our little guy, are not really doing fruit yet. He just turned 9 months and he's very happy with everything that he's eating. I'm going to go over a full list of everything that he's eating on a regular basis in just a little bit, and that just seems to work really well for us. It's going to be very individual depending on your needs, how your baby's doing, and we'll talk a little bit more about that too, about kind of customizing this and tweaking it to fit different babies' needs. But for us, just waiting for quite a while on fruit is what we like to do. Next thing in week 10 that Dr. Natasha talks about adding is what she calls cottage cheese. Now she's from the UK, so the terminology in her books can be a little bit different from what we call different foods here in the United States. But what she means is something that we call yogurt cheese or kefir cheese, and that is basically just yogurt or kefir dripped. The whey has dripped out of it, so then it's a lot thicker. You can think of it as like a cottage cheese type consistency. So to make yogurt cheese or kefir cheese, this is also the method that you use to get whey, by the way. You just take a bowl and a strainer and you line the bowl with either cheesecloth or any basic linen towel or cloth will do. I like to try to find something that's cotton, organic cotton if possible, but if you don't have that, that's okay. Just like a basic linen towel or cheesecloth will work. You line the bowl with your cloth and then you put your yogurt or your kefir in the cloth, and then you can actually bundle it up and tie it with string. You could tie it to a cabinet knob above your bowl. If you don't have a setup like that where you can tie it up, then you can just leave it in the strainer inside the cloth, and then the whey will drip out into the bowl in the bottom, and then what's left is the thicker yogurt cheese or kefir cheese. So that's what Dr. Natasha is talking about, and she talks about introducing that. She does mention in her book mixing a little bit of raw honey with it. I personally still, when my kids are under 1 year, I don't add raw honey yet. I wait until past a year at least before introducing that. So, you know, talk to your doctor, do your own research, and do what you feel comfortable with that. But that's what she recommends. And then, you know, I wait for after 1 year before adding honey. And then the last food that Dr. Natasha talks about introducing in week 10 is more of the baked items on GAPS. Now, if you've been with me before, you know that I talk a lot about keeping GAPS very doable, as well as focusing on those foods that are really the heart of GAPS that give you the benefits that you're after. So baking on GAPS is more of just a fun thing to enjoy once in a while to kind of fill in when you have an occasion where you feel like you need a treat, a birthday, a party, a picnic, a get together, you know, sometime where you want something fun, or just, you know, every day, once in a while, something fun. But it's not like a daily staple where you need to be including GAPS baked goods and that kind of thing. So for my kids, if we happen to be making something like that and I have it and the baby is wanting to try some, then that's fine. But I will not go out of my way to especially make separate GAPS baked goods just for the sake of introducing solids to my baby, because they're really not necessary. But it is good to expose them to a wide variety of different flavors and textures and foods as possible. So as I have the opportunity, I'll add it in, but I don't go out of my way to, you know, try to give it to them. And then I also wanted to share just some of the notes from Dr. Natasha. So just to kind of, you know, highly recommend, you really do have to get this book and read it to be able to do GAPS correctly, whether for yourself or someone else or your baby. But I wanted to just kind of include this part in this video just because it's super helpful, I thought. And so she talks about that you may have to introduce some foods later than this program lists, and I do talk about this as I go through the weeks, like we wait on fruit a bit. And the best indication is your baby's stool. If they get loose stool or constipation, then take it as an indication that they're not ready for that new food. So take it out, wait a few weeks, and then you can try it again later. Another common reaction to foods could be a new skin rash or an eczema flare. So if that happens, then you would want to take that out for a few weeks and then try again a little bit later. And then she just talks about be confident and relaxed when you're going through this whole process, because babies are like barometers. They sense our anxiety, and you want to make sure that eating is a really positive, happy experience for your baby. So be relaxed, have a good time about it. Don't worry about the messes that will happen. Make sure your baby has a spoon to play with if they like that, as well as the spoon, you know, separate from the spoon that you're using to feed them. That way they're not grabbing the spoon you're using all the time. And then over time they'll learn to use their own spoon. And she says, the stage of baby weaning is so short, enjoy it while you can, and that is so true. So then after week 10 going forward, it's basically just full gaps. So like I said, I wait a nice long time before introducing fruit until it's like, okay, they feel like they're probably ready. Their digestion is okay. They haven't been having diarrhea, diaper rashes, that kind of thing. Might be okay for them to try a little bit of cooked fruit. And then I'll just go back to the steps in the yellow book and I'll just look through of exactly how she says to introduce fruit. So cooked apples first with lots of fat, and then later the raw. So whenever I do go to those things that we waited on, I make sure that I follow her steps closely for that. And then the nut butter pancakes or nut butter in other times we'll include here and there. Gaps baked goods maybe here and there. And then that's pretty much it. It's basically sticking to the heart of GAPS foods for the most part. So lots of meats, fermented foods. I'll go over the full list here in just a second. Meat stock, cooked vegetables, fats, eggs, all that kind of stuff is what we mostly focus on. And then after 2 years, depending on how they're doing, I know some of my kids have had to do different things. Some of them have been okay with transitioning into having some properly prepared grains after 2. And then my second child, my son, oldest son, needed to spend time on GAPS and do heavy metal chelation and everything before he was, you know, years down the road ready to transition off and have properly prepared grains once in a while. So it just depends what the situation is going to be, but if everything's good, then after 2 is when I go ahead and try to introduce some of those properly prepared grains, the starchier foods, potatoes, different things like that, and just kind of watch very closely, make sure that we're not feeding pathogens which are causing symptoms that would indicate that there's a deeper underlying problem like heavy metals or something that we need to address. Yeah, so that is the complete process. And now I just want to kind of list off the full foods that our little guy is up to at this point. So he has meat stock every day. I make him the GAPS baby bottle and he has that twice a day, at least once. I try to fit it in twice a day. And so it's chicken meat stock, or we'll go through different varieties of meat stock, but chicken is typically what we have on hand. And then to that we'll add some fat, usually lamb tallow, and then a raw yolk and some sauerkraut brine. So he'll have that. I try to give him that sort of towards the beginning of the meal because it has things in there like the meat stock and the brine that are helpful for boosting stomach acid production. And then I'll give him some more food. So he'll have cooked vegetables, meat, he'll have kefir, cultured cream with kefir culture, he'll have avocado, raw yolks in his meat stock. Fruit we'll add later down the road. He's not really having fruit yet. The nut butter pancakes once in a while. He will have fermented vegetables. He can have raw vegetables according to Dr. Natasha, but I wait on the raw vegetables like I talked about in the video where we introduced those, just to make sure that there's not going to be any choking hazard. I just don't feel like going out of my way to puree raw vegetables. I would just rather puree cooked vegetables for them at this age. So we kind of wait on like vegetable sticks until they're much older and it's not a choking hazard. But I do fermented vegetables. So I'll give him little bits of very small little shreds of sauerkraut, things like that. I do include those. And then scrambled eggs, the yogurt cheese or kefir cheese, and then gaps baking once in a while, kind of as it fits our life. I did want to kind of talk about spoon feeding and clarify a little bit of that, because in one of my past videos where I talk about the cooked vegetables and then kind of moving on, all my kids go through a stage where they're not as interested in being spoon fed anymore. They'd rather just feed themselves. And so in our case, I was kind of trying that with the cooked vegetables for him. Like, we'd have some soft cooked carrots that I would like mash up with a fork and put on his tray for him, and that was just a little bit too fibrous. So I did go back and started pureeing his cooked vegetables for him again in meat stock and fat, and then spoon feeding him those so they're super pureed and soft and easy to digest, and he did better with that. He tolerates that really well. The just mashed up cooked vegetables were just a little too fibrous and were kind of irritating him. I could kind of see a little bit of diarrhea, diaper rash from things just going through a little bit too fast. So I do spoon feed him his vegetables. He would rather feed himself, but he does eat the vegetables with a spoon fine, and he does a lot better that way with it. So that's one of the things you kind of have to tweak depending on how your baby is doing. They may be okay feeding themselves everything, or if they're like prone to getting a little bit looser stools, if they're having a little bit too much fiber, then you might want to back off and go back to like pureeing their cooked vegetables or something like that. Let's also talk for a little bit about something that comes up sometimes, and that is in the beginning of the baby gaps, Dr. Natasha talks about offering the meat stock before bottle feeding or before nursing sessions. And I talked about in the beginning that I don't really do that. I just start introducing the meat stock. I don't heat up a bottle every time I'm going to nurse and give him that before. But let's talk about why you might want to know about that method. So if you have a baby that's struggling with something called failure to thrive, and Dr. Natasha describes this, not in this book, I think it's in the blue book. She talks about how these babies are not interested in solids because once they start eating food, they have abnormal gut flora and they don't feel good. So they don't like not feeling good. They feel best when all they're drinking is just nursing or formula, and so all I want to do is nurse or drink formula and not have food. And she says that babies can do okay nursing exclusively up till about 10 months, and then after that they really do need other nutrition beyond that. This is where she gives this method of giving them the meat stock first, and then the reward is nursing or the formula. So that way you start getting the meat stock into them, which starts healing that leaky gut and healing their body so that they can feel better, and gradually introduce the right foods so that they can feel okay. And she talks about how teaching them that it's okay, this meat stock is safe, it's not going to make you feel bad like those other foods that did. So they have to learn that by having the reward afterwards of nursing or formula, after they taste some meat stock, they gradually learn the meat stock is okay. And then after that, then you can increase that and then slowly move through the steps. Also, if you are dealing with something like failure to thrive, rather than following these baby GAPS steps, which are great for healthy babies in a GAPS family, you would probably want to look into Dr. Natasha's No Plant GAPS, and that is in her new blue GAPS book. And No Plant GAPS is going to be the perfect way to help babies and kids overcome that failure to thrive, because that'll cut out any of the irritating foods and just really gets their gut back on track so that they can digest things properly and feel good. And then you can build into the regular introduction diet or baby GAPS from that after you've made progress on No Plant GAPS. So that really concludes our journey through baby GAPS, or introducing solids to our baby using Dr. Natasha's steps. Make sure that if you have any questions about baby GAPS, leave me a comment down below. Also check out that description box for a link to my full written article on baby GAPS. As soon as I have that up, that will be available for you to go, and there'll be the full written version of this whole process. Be sure and check out Dr. Natasha's books as well, as they are vital to following this process correctly. Now let's move on into our 9-month update for our little guy. Just before we move into the 9-month update, I did want to share this baby seat with you. This is from Upseat, and they sent this to me, and I wanted to share it with you guys because I thought it was pretty neat. I don't know if you guys are familiar with another baby seat that's kind of popular that I actually don't love, just because it's not very ergonomic. Chiropractors really recommend not using them. They start with a B. I'm not really going to name them here. But I liked this one a lot better. So this one, I really like the appearance of. It's, nice color choice. They have some different colors that you can choose from on their website, theupseat.com. I will have a link to the seat down below too if you're interested, along with a 10% off discount code. So if you want, you can check that out. But I really liked the color choices, just a little more subtle and nicer to fit with the decor of the house. And then also the health, the position that the baby can sit in is a lot healthier than other baby seats that I've seen. This one has wider leg holes, so you can get their nice chunky thighs in and out a lot easier. It sits them up in a better, healthier position, so it's better for their hips and for their spine. And then it's safer too. It has these straps so you can buckle them in. It also will attach to a chair, as you can see, so it gives you more options on how to use it rather than just on the floor. You can use it on the floor, but you can, you know, strap it into a chair so that they can sit up there and eat or play, so it's really nice. It also has a handle on the top, which I love because the other ones they're so slippery. There's nothing to grab on to pick them up. And this one is great because you can just easily pick it up and move it when you need to. And then it makes it easy to bring along if you want to carry it and take it with you somewhere. So I like that. And like I said, theupseat.com is the website where you can check these out, and check out that description box for the coupon code. The code is Bumblebee Apothecary 10 for 10% off. And this particular product is Upseat Baby Floor and Booster Seat with Tray. They also have another toddler booster seat too that you can see. So this little guy is 9 months old already. I cannot believe how fast the time has gone by. He is such a happy little guy. He's starting to do some really cute things that are more coordinated, like he can clap his hands. He can play peekaboo by putting the blanket on his face himself and then pulling it away, and he loves that. He does lots of different sounds, and this is the earliest of any of my kids really to have a sound connected to something, like for a word. So he'll say mama clearly in connection with me, which is so cute. He's been sleeping really well. He'll still wake up most nights once, sometimes not at all though, which once is totally fine with me. Do not mind that at all. And then he'll go back to sleep for like a full 12 plus hour night, usually around 12 hours. And then he's trying to inch towards one nap a day most days, which all my kids do this super early. He'll usually go down somewhere between 11 and 1, just depending on when he got up in the morning, and then take a good 2 to 3 hour, usually, 2 to 3 hour nap. And then what makes this tricky is that trying to figure out the window for the rest of the day up until bedtime, because I do like him to go to bed sometime between 7 and 8, usually closer to 7. But if he had a nice long nap, it's like not quite long enough to have another nap in there, but kind of a long window of being awake too. So depending on if he woke up earlier, then I will usually have him go down for another short little nap in the later afternoon. But if it was a long later nap, then he will just have the one nap and then he's good to go. So I would not be surprised if he'll be moving into pretty much one nap all the time before too long, like my other kids. He sits really well. He's really secure sitting. Been moving around a little bit more, so scooting around kind of, and then getting more onto his hands and knees in like early stage crawling movements, kind of rocking a little bit. Not crawling yet though, and he's taking his time with that, just like my third child did. He's kind of following the same stages as him, so you know, no worries. They all do everything in their own good time, and I'm sure that he's going to follow the same pattern of probably crawling at 10 months and then walking at 13. He's just mostly happy to just sit and play and just easygoing, and he has his older siblings to bring him toys, but he's so happy, so easygoing, just, yeah, such a happy baby. Alright, I hope that you found that interesting and helpful. If you did, give this video a thumbs up, share it with anybody else you think would find it interesting or helpful. Be sure and check out that description box for links to free ebooks and other goodies. I also have links to information on how I can help you follow the GAPS diet. I also am working on opening up a brand new thing that I'm really excited about, and this is going to be a coaching membership. So there will be live Q&As with me, group Zoom calls for everybody in the group, exclusive discounts, all kinds of great stuff. So check out that link. You can get on the wait list so that you're notified as soon as doors are open. and get more information. If you're new to my channel, please hit that subscribe button. I get out new videos every week on nourishing recipes and natural living. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.